Welcome to Soulfire Wisdom with Kate Olson. As an evolving spirit and change adventure navigator, it is Kate's mission to empower and guide you on your path and inspire your truest passions. She will encourage you to share your gifts, speak your truth, and ignite your inner wisdom and purpose. She hopes to do so with a little humor and grace and her own soulfire passion. Kate talks with amazing guests who have embraced the pursuit and are fanning the flames of their own passion, purpose, and soulfire wisdom. Now here's your host, Kate.
Good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Welcome to Soulfire Wisdom and this special broadcast that we're doing on this wonderful Saturday morning. I'll say wonderful because here in Seattle we're having really heavy rain today. So I guess it's April showers, spring, May flowers. So looking forward to those flowers. Well, I'm really excited about this broadcast. I have four amazing ladies. Three of them I met at the Harvard Faculty Club when we were doing speaking events there. And then the other one I just recently met on Zoom. If this is your first time listening, Soulfire Wisdom usually airs on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. And the main topic is pursuing your passions. But we sometimes get into other topics as well. So I'm going to get right to introducing these beautiful ladies. Anne Logue has studied the healing arts extensively. She's a Reiki master, a hypnotherapist, and a practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming and healing touch. She's a lover of the arts and an advocate for creativity, and is also a children's book author. Her first book was The Story of the Sun, and the second book, which she's about to publish, is I Once Had a Tiger. She'll be my guest this coming Tuesday on the regular episode for Soulfire Wisdom, and we'll be talking about her books and the unexpected journey she took in writing them. And that episode is called When Life Yells, Plot Twist. And that'll be at 3 p.m. this coming Tuesday, April 28th. So hi, Anne. Good to see you.
Hi, Kate.
How are you today?
I'm good. It was supposed to be really, really sunny here, but we do have a little bit of clouds, so we're kind of in the same boat as you.
Is there anything else you'd like the audience to know before we get started?
No, I think you got it all covered.
Okay, great. So Dr. Faith Brown is a counseling psychologist, business strategist, author, speaker, professor. She's a radio personality and an expert panelist. She coaches individuals and corporate entities in posturing for the next level. She specializes in relationships and combines her knowledge in neuropsychology and behaviorism with more than 25 years in the corporate world, facilitating personal and professional development. Dr. Brown has received numerous awards from the healthcare industry and aims to show people how to manifest love and rewards in their lives. Hi, Faith.
Hi, Kate. How are you?
Great. How are you today?
I think I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you very much for the invite to this platform today, and to the very wonderful Miss Anne Logue, who had the vision for this fantastic group of panelists. So thank you so much. I'm very excited to be among this great group of women who I'm sure is going to imbue such wisdom today. I can't wait. I'm very excited to be here.
So is there anything else that the audience should know about you?
No, nothing at all. You covered it. You covered it. Thank you very much.
Right. So Suzanne Baxter is a licensed psychologist in private practice for 25 years. Suzanne's professional work includes a wide range of experience in the psychological field, including working as a part of the Institute of Cultural Affairs, an international organization where she did village development work in Kenya and Peru. This experience ignited her interest in the spiritual realm, which has woven itself into her work. Couples resilience is an area she currently specializes in. Hi, Suzanne.
Well, hi, Kate.
How are you?
I'm fabulous. I was using my own resilience today because I'm growing a garden, which I've never done before. So I was out in the dirt this morning.
So I just recently met Suzanne over Zoom, and she's a good friend of Anne's, and that's how she connected with the group.
I connected with Anne through, both of us are studying the Course in Miracles. So some of that essence might weave into the things that I'm saying today.
Great. So Mona Green is a speaker, life coach, and artist who works with clients to help them become their best, most authentic selves. She's the founder of Namas Me, a coaching company designed to help others self-realize and become more intentional, joyful contributors to society. As a life course, coach, an energy leadership master practitioner, and NLP practitioner, Mona complements her coaching practice with an open mind, sharp intuition, no BS attitude, and her passion for personal development. She was born in Colombia, has lived in 10 different countries, and speaks 4 languages. Hi, Mona.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm very, very excited to be here today.
Great. Anything else people should know about you?
I'm actually more excited to jump in the soup of things. I think they'll get whatever they need to get from me in the conversation. So let's boogie.
Okay, great. So we're going to start really with the basics, and I'm going to ask each of these, well, since we're talking about the current COVID-19 adversity that we're all experiencing, and the title of our show is The Silver Linings in Adversity. We're going to start with the adversity. And I'm going to ask each of the ladies to tell us how the pandemic has affected them each personally. So go ahead, ladies.
For me, I have to say that the way that this has affected me is it makes me want to find a way to be of service in this situation. So I think, like a lot of people, I've made a lot of masks for people. That's one prong of it. And actually, this panel is another prong of it, too, because the ladies that we're here together, that we all met, over the course of a couple of years, and we've all been trying to help people problem solve through different traumatic situations in their lives, help to guide them. So that's something that I'd like to contribute to this situation.
Yeah, I can add to that. I think and echo that. It has done the exact same thing. It has just elucidated my helping gene, just trying to assist wherever and however we can, along with just making connections far more pronounced. I'm one that appreciates relationships in all forms. And this is just really kind of underscored the need to remain connected. You know, even if you have just 5 seconds to do so, it's important to either pick up the phone or send a message just to let people know that you're thinking of them. You know, at a time when people are feeling very lonely and alone, it's important to remain connected. So yeah, just trying to be of service and remain connected.
In my case, it has, I think I was aware of this. I didn't understand the extent of it, but I'm really seeing how powerful the work that I do with my clients is. Part of navigating this situation is learning how to navigate any situation where you don't have a lot of control, and helping people become emotionally resilient and unmesswithable, for lack of a better term, from that psychological and emotional standpoint, is a skill set that is really useful right now. So it's almost as if the situation has put a fire in my belly to get more vocal, to encourage more people to start diving into this work and not just distract away the outside world, but to use this opportunity as a very valuable pause button and a time to reevaluate and see what's coming moving forward from a little bit of a different perspective.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Well,
Go ahead.
personally, I have been lucky to not have been affected greatly. It's forced me to go more inward, like I think lots of people. We're forced to learn more technology. The only way it's hit me personally is a friend of mine's daughter died in Brooklyn from COVID. So that's always like shocking. And to tie in personal, I was made aware that the word crisis, K with a K, is with Latin root. Crisis means to decide. And so every crisis, COVID being one of them, gives you a new opportunity to decide where you're going to go with your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's allowed me to go inward with my clients as well as myself, and to use telemedicine. That's been an opportunity. So I'm looking forward in deepened conversations. And then this just showed up via Anne to see how that could work in a panel format. I'm used to one-on-one. That's kind of what I do and what I like in my comfort zone, but we'll see how this goes today. So I believe crisis has opportunities, and let's see how we can extend it by giving to others as well as ourselves.
Yes. Interesting how I asked how it affected all of you personally, and you all went more to the silver linings than the adversity. So I want to say that one thing that has affected me is I have a friend who's actually dying not of the virus, but of a brain cancer. And, you know, nobody can go and see him, you know, because of this virus. And so that's really hard because you're sad and, you know, you can't be there to comfort that person. Other than that, I am giving free services to anyone who is dealing with stress or anxiety, or anyone who is a healthcare worker. So that's how I'm trying to contribute. So this pandemic is affecting our children in ways that will probably impact them throughout their whole life. So how should we talk to our children, and why is it important?
Well, I really feel like this is something that's kind of close to my heart because my books are for children, and that's something that I have really tried to reach out in my world and touch them. And I realized this is going to be a lot of big changes for them. The silver lining of it is that teaching children, even at a young age, how to deal with adversity and hardship is definitely a big piece of learning how to navigate through the world.
Mm-hmm.
But also there's a lot of things too where they see their parents going through hardship and some parents are handling it better than others. I know statistically, liquor sales are up 65%. So you have these parents that are having their beer or wine, and then they're teaching their kids math. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fallout from that. I think there's going to be a lot that's going to have to be unpacked after this whole thing is over. And I'm sure that, kids are going to be affected by it. I think that how we model, what we're teaching children in this situation is really important.
And to that point, if I can piggyback off of what you just said, Anne, I think it's easy to overlook the importance of giving a child a sense of agency and a sense of choice, even in a situation like this, and especially in a situation like this. Because as an adult, what you're trying to model for the child is, hey, I can't control everything that's going on, but that doesn't mean that I fall out of a sense of stability and a sense of equilibrium. And I have found with some of my clients who have kids and are navigating the situation, one of the most useful things that they have been working with is, designing somewhat of a loose schedule for activities, but within that schedule, providing choice points for their children to make decisions. Hey, right now you have the choice between this and this, so that the child who's used to, in many cases, being outside of the home, making some choices in their everyday life, receives a little bit of that sense of normalcy again. Because, I mean, this is an incredible situation for all of us, especially for children. As adults, we can understand the importance of staying at home. We can understand the larger picture. For a child, it can easily just register as, I'm stuck at home and I don't understand why, and I miss my friends. Mm-hmm. So anything that we can do to help kids feel like their opinion matters, that they're seen, and that they have a choice is really, really important.
And I find the same thing. I'm actually working with some teenagers. One of my things I did in the past was a school psychologist, so I get a lot of teen referrals. And the ones I'm working with seem to be dealing with it quite well. And it's for the very reason that you mentioned, Mona, because they're given choices when they're going to do some of their online classwork and when they can do some internet things with their friends. And so I'm not seeing the struggle there. I'm seeing struggles I'm dealing with some kids that their parents are going through a divorce right now. So we're dealing with allowing them to articulate, again, another kind of crisis that's occurring within this crisis. So the crisis is going to be continuing. We're going to have more after this one is gone or keeps going or comes back, whatever. Crisis is part of who we are. And we all need to learn how to deal with not being in control, which is what you talked about.
Okay, anything else? Okay, one thing I would say on this is talk to your kids about how you're feeling and be just honest with them, because if you try to pretend that you're not, nothing's wrong and everything's okay, your kids sense when you're feeling stress and tension. And if you don't talk to them and tell them what you're feeling and why, they're going to make their own interpretations. Mm-hmm. And one thing that kids do a lot of is they do feel like they're the center of the universe, and they take responsibility for, everything that's going on around them. If they sense stress in you, they think that somehow they're causing that. So if you tell them what's going on, they're gonna be able to deal with it better. So
I like to say, I'm sorry.
No.
I was on a Zoom call with Dr. Faith, and we were talking about relationships. And she was mentioning that, in a relationship, a one-on-one relationship between a spouse or a partner, it's really important to hold a safe space for someone. And I started thinking about that a lot. And I think that's really an important thing for adults to do, to provide for children. But in reality, in a partnership, I think that's probably one of the scariest things that we do face, because we're facing our own fears through our partner as they mirror different things that we come up with. And I know Dr. Faith had a lot to say about that. I thought it was very insightful what she said. I don't know, maybe she'd like to add some more to that.
Well, actually, you know what? Thank you so much, Anne. It's just very important. I will go back around where Kate was mentioning having these conversations with children. Not only is it important to let them know how we feel, it's important to listen to them, to hear through their, see what they're seeing, hear what they're feeling, and allowing them to voice those stories, because they could be very different from what we're thinking. And
Yes.
so allowing that to come forward and not judge it, to just be with it, and appreciate that. And then to ask, questions like, so how do you think would be the best way to handle that? To then give them a sense of agency in terms of making decisions and hearing how they may deal with certain adverse situations. But yes, it is important to provide safe spaces for people to learn and to grow. It's when we either, one, ignore, or two, listen, but listen in judgment, that we, one, invalidate, or two, we prevent the witness. We prevent them from coming forward ever again, or desiring to come forward, because they've just discovered that it's not a safe place to land. So we just want to make sure that we can appreciate these little people as little people who have their own identities, who have their own thoughts, their own feelings, and that they are true for them. And in that sense, that we can appreciate who they are in that very moment.
Yes.
And that they're little people with big emotions too.
Yeah, so that I'm going to ask Mona a specific question. I know that you're a big advocate for using imagination as a resource to manage stress and create better outcomes. Can you tell us some of the ways to stimulate and use imagination?
Absolutely. So I love the idea of imagination as a resource, because it immediately opens our thinking a little bit more than the traditional avenues where we look to place some of our attention. People think of money as a resource. People think of time as a resource. People think of connections as a resource, right? But especially in a time like this, where a lot of those things are all of a sudden not on the table, our creativity is one of our biggest assets. So imagination is one of those things that, kind of like time, is used whether you're being conscious of it or not. It's just being perpetually used. And if you're not conscious about it, chances are that it's stoking whatever fears you may be holding in your body about the situation. So one of the things that I encourage my clients to do to work with imagination as a resource is to ask questions that don't feel like too much of a stretch, but that open that dialogue in a healthy way. What do I mean? So one of the questions is, if we couldn't change anything about this situation in the circumstances realm of it, what would it be like if it didn't have to suck? What would you feel, right? What would you be doing? And by opening these little lines of inquiry, what you do is you're inviting the person to not bypass the situation, but to assume a different consciousness about it. So we're not saying the situation's great. We're not saying that at all, but we're saying, it doesn't necessarily have to be terrible. So what would it be like if it wasn't terrible? Well, I'd feel a lot less stress, or I would feel more productive, or I would actually sleep more, or whatever. And in those answers, you start getting a little bit more clarity as to where to invest the energy moving forward from an activities perspective. So I really love the question of, what would it look like, or what would it feel like if it didn't have to be terrible? And sometimes just sitting with the actual understanding that imagination is a resource and challenge and using that as a challenge. If I have no other resources available to myself right now, what can my imagination do for me that will help me elicit a different result from life? How can I think creatively? What skill sets do I have that I can use in a way that I perhaps haven't considered before to help me get some positive traction? It's different with every person that we're talking to, so it's a little hard to generalize about this. But the point I really drive home in this conversation is it's actually one of our most powerful resources. Einstein himself said it. Imagination is actually more important than knowledge, because we're creating with our imagination. We're not regurgitating what we already know. What we already know has gotten us to the point where we're at. So what we already know, not very useful right now. So just focusing on imagination being that resource and asking intelligent questions should be enough.
Great. Yes, imagination is really, I think it's one of the most important abilities we all have. So we might as well use it. So for almost a year, when I was doing Embrace Change with Kate, I did Mindful Mondays. So I was and am very aware of the importance of mindfulness. So I'd like to ask Dr. Faith to tell us what mindfulness is and why it's important, and also how it can help us through this adversity or almost any adversity.
Yeah. I'd be happy to. Thank you so much. Again, looking at the silver linings and what we can do to maintain our sense of self, mindfulness just happens to be one of those resources. Oftentimes when people think of mindfulness, they begin to think about religion, the different religions of the world. And it's so far from that. It is simply a spiritual practice and tapping into that higher power within ourselves and knowing that we can do that. I love so much what Mona just mentioned about the question that stimulates agency in oneself, asking the question, if it could be anything else, what would that look like? And if one is stressed, saying that, well, I would be less stressed. Well, what we come to appreciate is that we have a choice in that. We can actually not be stressed in the moment. That's a choice. And mindfulness will actually help to embrace that more than anything. So mindfulness is really about controlling our attention. Wherever our thoughts are, that's where the energy flows, and that's where it goes. So if we're thinking we're stressed, we're going to become more stressed if we're thinking on stressful things. So just learning that we can actually control that. We're in control of our attention, where we send our attention at all times, is very, very empowering. So how can it help us in this moment? It empowers us to make the decisions about what we focus on. We can decide to focus on all things positive. We can decide to focus on all things negative. We can decide that we're going to be creative agencies. We're going to create in this moment. We can decide that we're not going to do anything, so it is totally up to us. But where we send our mind is going to determine how we feel inside and what propels us next. Our belief system around that informs our thoughts. Our thoughts will always inform our feelings, our actions, and our actions back around to our beliefs. So that's why the conversation with children right now is so important, because we get to influence their beliefs. Their little brains are just soaking things up, so how we imprint upon them, how we teach them to meditate, how we teach them mindfulness in the moment, that this is actually a tool that they can reach for at any time. All of the great leaders had some kind of practice where they were able to calm their brains, calm things down, calm the activity, such that they can begin executing on whatever the agenda or plan was in that moment. So it's it's a great resource to just have and to reach for whenever possible. And I might say that there are different forms of mindfulness. We can actually sit, be still, and focus our attention. But I love that Suzanne, I'm on your trail, has started a garden. I'm about to start gardening. So when you're in your garden, that's a form of focused attention. And as well as creating. So in about 6 weeks, 8 weeks, she's going to begin to see, the harvest of that labor. So, it pays it forward in spades. So it's a beautiful, beautiful resource to reach for. And thankfully is tried and true. We now have data, we have research to substantiate how it changes the brain, actually physiologically changes the brain. And the more we do it, the more we engage it, we'll find that not only the calmer we are, but we send that energy into the world. And so with all of us, the vibrations of the brain connecting all of us, we can send that positive energy forward and have more of a mindful perspective towards our neighbors, towards one another. It's a really beautiful thing.
Great.
If it's okay, there's just something that you said that I think sparked something that's, I think, really valuable in this particular topic, and it has to do with physiology and stress.
Yes.
And the way that we collectively speak and relate to stress. I think if you pay attention to the language that we use around stress, we see that there is something in that relationship worth visiting. We're like, oh man, I am so stressed out. I had a panic attack, almost as if panic was behind a door and like jumped out at you and attacked you, and you were a complete victim of your circumstances, right? And that's why language is so important in the way that it creates the stories of how we relate to different things that happen in our lives, stress being one of them. So if we just focus on the fact that stress is an actual physiological reaction to whatever story you are telling about what's happening in your life, then through a practice like mindfulness, through a practice like gardening that also teaches you patience and the fact that life is cyclical, you're in a much better position to understand that these things are happening. Whatever is happening is actually neutral. It's not positive or negative, and that you have a choice as to what you do with that information. And before it hits your body in the way where your nervous system freaks out, right? So just thank you so much for contributing that, because you nailed it.
And that particular response, actually, knowing that we have a choice, we have to also know that we're empowered to halt a negative physiological effect on the body, right? Because if we go down that road, then we begin to manufacture cortisol. And cortisol damages the immune system. And so in the era of COVID, that's something we want to absolutely stay away from. So just knowing that we have that as a resource and agency, that we have choice in that moment is so powerful.
Great. That's really valuable information and useful. We're running a little shorter on time than I'd like. And I was going to have Faith do a little mindfulness demonstration, but we don't have time for that. Maybe another time.
Another time.
Ask Anne, what are some healing techniques that could be helpful to people experiencing stress and anxiety other than mindfulness? What are some other techniques?
Well, again, there's a lot of them. Suzanne and I had this conversation yesterday about them because, if you're a practitioner that does NLP or hypnosis or any of the healing arts, there's so many techniques. There's one very brief one that I would be able to do if people were interested in it. I was thinking that this might be a very good grounding technique. So if you can imagine yourself wherever you are as somebody that has a pony or a horse and has had that pony or horse for a long time, you've developed a good relationship with this pony or the horse. Let's call it a pony. And so if you've ever observed somebody that was riding a horse, you know that the horse is very responsive to what the person riding the horse is feeling and experiencing. So with that in mind, you're going to be riding the horse. And as you're riding the horse, you're feeling the connection with you and the horse. You're taking yourself through a field, a beautiful beach, whatever it is, and you're feeling that physical sensation of riding the horse, being in tune with another animal and sharing that wonderful experience with them. And you can take that, expand that further, make it into a meditation. The thing that is helpful in that is it helps to develop your sense of grounding. So you're connecting with the horse, and that connects with your root chakra, which is actually the chakra for survival. And it is really important at this time because people feel that that is jeopardized, and it's not something that is given anymore because there's doubt, confusion, fear about that. So that is an exercise that will help to reinforce that, will help people to realize that, they have that control over it. They can be in touch with it. So I think a lot of times when people go through anxiety or stress, one thing that happens is they get in their head and they think totally from their head, and they're not pulling all their energy through their body. And really it requires all of the energy through your chakras to be in alignment for you to fully go forward in your power, which is what we want to do on a day-to-day basis. So that would be something that I would recommend doing. There's so many more that, we don't really have time to do. I don't know, like Suzanne and I had this conversation. I don't know, Suzanne, were you on the call where somebody was talking about a teacher that she went through the classroom and she handed everybody a piece of paper and she told them not to turn the paper over yet. And so then when everybody had their paper, she asked them to turn the paper over, and the paper had a black dot in the middle of it. And then she asked the children to describe what was on the paper. And all of the children described the black dot, which is what we're doing. We're describing this crisis that we're in. But most of the paper is all white space. Most of the paper is imagination. Most of the paper is creativity and the possibilities of things that can happen. So what you draw your attention to and focus on is really important at this time, because there's a lot of white space out there that needs to get colored in with good things and possibilities and opportunities.
Yes,
So,
a lot of good points in that, especially what you brought up about meditation. A lot of people think that you have to be still and quiet and when you're meditating, and actually you can be meditating, as she said, when you're riding a horse. So I want to ask Suzanne about you counsel couples on resilience, and that's definitely something that could be needed during this stay-at-home order. So can you tell us some of the ways that couples can increase resilience?
Well, first, let's define it. Resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from adversity. This is one adversity. So with couples, it's how to be more elastic, less rigid. Now there's I teach how not to push back, but how to join and to understand where the other one is coming from. So whether they're cooped up in the house, whether they're disciplining their children differently, whatever, it's how to rebound or recoil, to bend and not break. And so then if you were in a session, whether counseling or coaching, whatever, you'd be practicing techniques in what that means and grounding it in your own personal situation. So that's what you're doing. And then tied in with that, under resilience, are things that are takeaways here today. One is, what is locus of control? And locus of control is being internal, not looking for your support externally, not turning the television on and thinking you're going to get the answers to this, but go a little deeper, ask other questions, which is what we're trying to do today, and how we're using new tools like imagination, how to embrace the battle and let go of the outcomes. Trust in being in the moment, living in the present. And that's what the mindfulness was about. So kind of tying back into these techniques and knowing that you can learn to be more resilient. Some people are just naturally more than others, but it can be taught. And if you want to take that away, just ask spirit, ask your own inner guidance to help you be more present and resilient with whatever shows up. I'll leave it at that. Time short.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's one thing that I'm noticing, that this could have been a 2-hour panel. But so I'm going to kind of skip around to some of the things that I think are important to get to. How can your spirit, and this is for everyone, how can your spiritual perspective influence the way you approach resolving the issues that we're currently dealing with?
Well, I think that actually influences everything. That the way that you work through your life is really, from my point of view, determined by your spiritual perspective. So this kind of ties into another thing that you and I were talking about, Kate, is what is your view of the world? I mean, if you see the world as a bad place and your relationship to the world as a place of danger and fear, then this is going to be very intense for you. If you feel like the world is a good place and is basically good and good things can happen, then you're going to move forward in that place. No matter what happens, whether it's in this situation or in another situation, because we all have adversity and hardship in our lives, how are you going to approach it? What is your relationship to it? How are you going to take the situation and turn it into a positive stepping stone for you going forward? And in the New York area, Governor Cuomo has been on TV a lot, and everybody loves him right now because he has a very common sense approach. And one of the things that he said, I think yesterday or the day before, was he called it stones across the morass, which is kind of like what Rumi says, you take one step and then the next step appears. So if you have stone upon stone, one stone after the other stone, then you get through it. You don't have to see the end, like Suzanne says. You don't have to see the outcome of it. You just have to know that with faith, you just take a step with your best knowledge of what you can do now. And like Maya Angelou says, you know, when you know better, you do better. I mean, it's just the same thing. Having faith in the present time, knowing that you're taking the best step that you can take, and then take the next step.
Absolutely. Anybody else on this? No? Okay. How does money factor into the health crisis, and what impact does it have on resolutions?
Well, money is a big factor. And people are, again, it's in resilience. People are finding ways to get it. All these new stimulus packages are one. And I talked to a lawyer who's getting the loan package. There are people that seem to be left out of the equation, and that's the hard part. But each person, no matter what their circumstance is, needs to find that resilience there. If you have a disease right now, what can you best do? And it's the attitude of gratitude. To what am I supposed to learn from whatever this is right now? And some people have a lot of things on top of the COVID going on. Mm. Some people are blessed to have more money, and it does create less worries. But there's a lot of those folks that are still in fear because the stock market's crashing, and what if and the elections are coming, and what if and maybe. But again, we're back to the common sense wisdom is what's next? Take the next stone, take the next step, be in the present. So that's my comment on money.
I have a little bit of a different take on it, in the sense that I feel that part of what this experience is really illuminating is just how broken our system is, and how what we have built from an economic perspective really doesn't serve everybody. The fact that a lot of the PPP or the assistance programs that were supposed to go to helping small business owners actually get funding to continue being in business, a lot of that money actually went to public companies. And it's because of the way that the actual structuring of these loans and everything was designed, where banks were given preference, as it was supposed to be on a first come, first serve basis. But then banks said, okay, if they're asking for a bigger loan, there are more transaction fees. So I'm going to prioritize the bigger clients and leave the people who need the most assistance behind. So even within our management of this crisis, we are seeing that our system is inherently broken, and that a system based exclusively on money being at the forefront of the conversation is no longer serving us. We have to be, to your point, Suzanne, yes, we have to be resilient. We have to figure it out. But we also need to take a moment and take stock and be like, okay, we have clearly created something that if something as, and I'm not saying this is minor, but how is it possible that with a slowdown, borderline shutdown of a couple of weeks, entire economies are collapsing? We are seeing just how fragile that balance has been all along. We have been blissfully unaware through our conspicuous consumption culture of this underlying instability that has been there all along. So I think, if anything, the situation, at least in the conversations that I'm having and the solutions that I'm coming up with in my community and in communities similar to mine, it's like, how do we leverage these resources that aren't money? How do we create a sense of stability within a system that prizes this one thing, but that when it hits the fan and when push comes to shove, that's not the only thing, because I can grow my own food. I can find a way of, in one way or another, surviving just about anything. So making it just about the money bit also puts me in a destination consciousness, thinking that, that's going to be the solution for everything that's going on. And I think that this crisis is really compelling us to see a little bit more of a 360-degree view of who we are, what we need, and the fact that we need each other and that we are interdependent. And that if we get intelligent about how we share our resources, then maybe that's a better approach. I mean, I don't have an answer, but the questions, yeah.
That's a big question. The system is broken. Now, there's a show for you, Faith. Let's talk about the system, because I agree with you, but unless you're a revolutionary, you got to start here. Like, what can we do here? And then I looked back for perspective. Like, we had the Spanish flu here in Philadelphia. It hit very hard. People then, what was resilience then was a whole different, and the Holocaust and all these other things in history, because I love history. What people have been through is, well, you hate to much, I wanted to say much worse, but I don't want to put a judgment on it. People have been through horrific things and survived. The human spirit will survive. Small businesses, they'll either fold, we'll find that out in a few months, what's going to happen there. They'll fold, they'll become something else, as that has gone on before. But system change, that's a very that's a political question. That's interesting. I like to talk to you about that further.
I absolutely. And I think also, what does being a revolutionary mean today?
Yeah.
I think I'm a part of the revolution because I'm opting out of the parts of the system where I can, right? If I'm growing my own vegetables, I'm less susceptible to whatever it is that's being decided for me. So it's, we have to get bolder and we have to get louder if we're carrying the torch for a more equal, a more just, and a more kind future.
Okay, this is getting into a little bit of a different subject. So I'm going to ask one question that I want to be sure to get in. that's what are some of the ways that you would like to see positive change or silver linings come out of this adversity? And that, again, is a question for everyone.
You know, I think that everyone kind of hit on it in very similar ways. And it has to do with self-agency along with connectedness. So, you know, in the self-agency, having a consciousness around being interconnected. You know, we were just having the discussion around money, and I'll just throw this in, but as it relates to self-agency, just recognizing, I hope that one lesson that comes out of this is that money is but one resource, and it's an access point. Whether it's $1 million or $100, it's an access point. And that's really all it is. If we can change it from being something tangible to intangible, it's just an access point, you know? So it's really relative in terms of how we define ourselves, right? It comes down to self-identity, self-agency, and who we are becoming and who we will allow ourselves to become in this moment. So I'm hoping that as we move forward, that we'll take inventory of our own agency, and if we need to bolster that, that we will do things such as, you know, everything that these wonderful ladies have suggested today, everything from using our imagination and creativity to becoming more grounded, or learning something about just how resilient we really are, you know, in these times, and allow that to propel us forward. And as we are being propelled, that we bring someone along with us, that we know that we're not in this thing, you know, alone, that we're actually more together. We have more in common than we have different. So I'm hoping that comes out of it.
And I agree with you, Faith. I think that one of the things that we've all hit on is the connectiveness, the connection that we have with our families that are hopefully growing stronger during these times, the connection with our community, the connection with our country. And I think that, you know, whether you're talking about money or anything else, money, just like anything, is just an energy. It's just a type of energy. And if you put it into those terms, then the value that you put on that is, you know, it may be high value or maybe low value. The thing that I see is that in these kind of situations, there's more sharing. I mean, we had somebody come through town with all the teachers that have not been working, and they came through town with the fire trucks and just waved to everybody, all the kids, to say, we're still here, we're still helping you. I mean, the heart of the people that are really working so hard to help through this situation, I mean, it's incredible, just understanding what kind of sacrifices they're going through. And there are people there that are really trying to help from their heart. I think that's one of the things, hopefully that is a takeaway that we do bring forward with us, that there is that connection and that sense of community, that we do connect into that and we do grow that and make that stronger instead of the divisions. That would be a big plus for me.
Anyone else? Okay,
Well,
so the final
I will add to that. Less divisiveness, more joining, more commonality, more positivity, more looking into your values in your life, and more excitement and more possibility.
Great.
Amen.
Yes.
I love the excitement. Yes. Yes.
Definitely. So the final question is a two-part question. First, I'd like each of you to tell us the one thing that you'd like listeners to take away from the show today. And at the same time, tell them how they can get a hold of you if they'd like to get in touch. So just everyone give that information, the one thing that you'd like listeners to take from the show today, and how they can get in touch with you.
The one thing that I'd like for all of our listeners to know is that they're not victims. In any circumstance, they're not victims. They are victors, and you can make a choice at any time, in any moment, about anything. You're empowered to do so in every situation. I don't care what information is coming at you. You are empowered to not be a victim in that situation. You can definitely be a victor. And I'm Dr. Faith Brown, and you can reach me at drfaithbrown.com. There is a calendar on there if you'd like to schedule an appointment. We can meet at any time. You just had all of us for this wonderful hour. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Anne, for the vision around this. You can email me at drfaithbrown@gmail.com or give me a call at 212-729-5653. I just love to host a conversation and just be with you however I can. Thanks again, ladies. This was wonderful.
Okay. Suzanne Baxter, you can reach me at trinitypilot@gmail.com. That's good. Email. That'll get it. Takeaway. You're fabulous. Trust in what is. Have a little forgiveness, a little gentleness, a little kindness to some of the things that are going on. Be a little less critical and a little more, go within and be at peace within. Yeah. trinitypilot@gmail.com.
So I'd like to say the thing that my takeaway is that you, especially during these times, you really don't know what people are going through. So when you encounter people in public, the very little amount that we are in public, just be aware of that, because you don't know what kind of hardship or trials they're going through, and to have patience and compassion towards them, and to express that in a way so that we do build community, we do build our resources of connection, and that gets our community stronger rather than weaker through this tough time. And if you're interested in connecting with me, my website is apathwithapurpose.com. And Logue, 908-868-4753. I'd love to talk to you.
All right, so I think I'm the last one left. Big takeaway: this too shall pass. In both ways that you can interpret that. If you're going through a hard time, if you're struggling, you have resources available to you. The five of us being open to receiving you with open arms. And this too will be figure outable in one way or another. So have faith. If you're not having that big of a struggle, but you're feeling a little bit impatient and you're stuck at home, remember, this too shall pass. So this is a beautiful opportunity to turn this into something else that you may not have explored. So if you're struggling, struggle's not going to last forever. If you're not struggling, ask yourself, how can you use this time in a way to continue growing and to continue nurturing your life, your relationships, your family, your projects, or whatever. This is a very special, peculiar time that we're all sharing. It's also a time where the world is experiencing, maybe even for the first time, a real sense of empathy, in the sense that everybody is going through this right now. You know, not even the Great Depression touched everybody. This is literally, the whole world understands what quarantine means right now. And that within itself is a beautiful thing. So remember that. And remember, again, you have resources available, myself being one of them. This is Mona Green. My company's name is Namasme. You can find me at www.namasme.com. Send me an email at hey@namasme.com, or follow me on Instagram at heynamasme.
Great. I want to say thank you to all these ladies for sharing their wisdom. I can tell that we could probably do a part 2 here, because we only touched, half of the questions that we were going to, and I wish we had more time, but we don't. So I just want to say the fact that these ladies wanted to get together and come on here and share not just, the adversity that we're going through, but, the silver linings, the light at the end of the tunnel, is a beautiful thing and something that we should all be thankful for. So I do have a quote for you to carry with you through the week, and that is, because adversity alone has the unique power to inspire exceptional clarity, purge any vestiges of lethargy, refocus your priorities, hone your character, and unleash your most potent forces. And that was said by Eric Heinmeier and Paul Schultz. I guess it's a quote from their book. And to me, that because that is the silver lining in the adversity. That's what it's giving us. So I want to encourage you to listen to the show on Tuesday, where I'll be interviewing Anne about her books in When Life Yells Plot Twist, and that's at 3 p.m. on this coming Tuesday. So thank you again, ladies, for being here and sharing, as I said, your wisdom. And goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great
good
day.
one.
This is
All right.
Have a
fabulous.
good day, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
Stay safe, stay well.
Yes.
Thank you for
I
listening to
know.
Fire Wisdom with Kate Olson. We hope you enjoyed the show. If we made you laugh, brightened your day, or sparked a new thought, we have succeeded in our mission. Join us next time when we'll share more secrets and truths and all the magic of transformation that is the journey to Soulfire Wisdom. Always remember, be fierce in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire.